Teraz miejscowość, a teraz miejsce, gdzie będziemy po raz drugi, to Cambridge oczywiście. Ja mówiłem o tym, że kiedy myślimy o nauce, kiedy myślimy o biznesie, kiedy myślimy o połączeniu, kiedy myślimy o sukcesie także, to oczywiście Cambridge jest takim miejscem, które myśląc o Europie przychodzi nam na myśl jako jedno z pierwszych. Wracamy tam teraz o fenomenie Cambridge, opowie pan Walter Herriot z Cambridge Science Park. Zapraszam.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've been asked to speak about the Cambridge phenomenon, by which my understanding is this is the development of a significant number of innovative businesses in a university town not previously known for a positive attitude towards entrepreneurship. And before I do so, I have a number of apologies to make. First of all, my wife told me that whatever I should do, I had to wear a suit and a tie and look respectable because I would be talking alongside people from Germany and the Netherlands, and they always looked respectable, and you mustn't let England down. Well, I'm sorry, but wearing a tie and a suit is not my style, so I'm going to take them off. Don't worry, I'm going to stop there before I embarrass myself and frighten anybody even more. The second apology I have to make is the fact that I'm not respectable. By background, I've got a degree in sociology in England in the 1960s. And in the 1960s, sociology was a degree in street fighting and socialism. However, I didn't become a socialist. I decided to destroy capitalism from the inside and became a bank manager instead. I come from Liverpool, which is not a respectable city in the United Kingdom, and currently we have not got a very good football team, but we hope to get better. However, in the context of today's events, I did work for Barclays Bank at a very key moment in the development of the high-tech cluster in Cambridge, and I'll allude to that in my speech. And I also ran, before I was declared officially senile, in 2008, at the age of 65, I ran the St John's Innovation Centre for 20 years, which again Patrick Horsley has talked about. So I will try and weave these into my narrative of the Cambridge phenomenon and try and link what I have to say to what the speakers this morning had said. And I had to tear up my original notes because I agreed so much with what was said, and I had to try find something different and refreshing, which has been rather difficult. Never mind, we shall press on. I've forgotten what the fourth thing I had to apologise for was, but no doubt that'll... Oh yes, I finished before I started, yes. I was supposed to finish at 1:45, and it's now 1:45 and I haven't started yet. I will speak for 10 to 15 minutes, and I hope that's okay with the organisers. So, the Cambridge phenomenon. What is it really? And what made it happen, and what were the role of science parks, innovation parks in the process. And as I say, I'm backing up a lot of what was said this morning. When I first came to Cambridge from Liverpool in 1975, Cambridge was, it was a town with a good university, world-class university in fact, but as far as entrepreneurial spirit was concerned, it didn't have any. Liverpool, the town I'd left, which was declining fast, had more entrepreneurial spirit than Cambridge. Not perhaps the type of entrepreneurial spirit one wished to encourage, for those of you who know Liverpool, but nevertheless, it had an entrepreneurial spirit. Cambridge didn't have any. There were no, there were 6, I think I counted, so-called high-tech or knowledge-based businesses. There were no public companies, and there was very negative attitude towards innovation. And the area itself around Cambridge was in the lowest quartile in the United Kingdom for wealth creation or for general wealth per head of the population. So that was it. That was Cambridge in 1975. By 2015, Cambridge population hadn't increased from 100,000 people. Travel to work area had increased slightly from probably 200,000 to 300,000. But nevertheless, this is a small town. This is not Utrecht. This is not Berlin. This is not Vienna. This is not Warsaw. This is a tiny town on the Fens, 40 miles from London. Now we have something like 1,500 innovative high-tech businesses employing 45,000 people. We had, until Hewlett-Packard bought Autonomy, 2 FTSE Top 100 companies. Now we've only got 1, but that's pretty good for a town of 100,000 people. And we have a cluster which is based on a number of sub-clusters coming together. Biotech is the latest, or material science is probably the latest. Biotech, going back in time, IT, scientific instrumentation, engineering, coming on from the mid part of the 20th century. So this is not insignificant in a United Kingdom context. A town roughly the size of Preston. Preston hasn't got anything like that. Cambridge is, in a United Kingdom context, unique for the size of businesses and the growth that we've seen over the last 20 years. I also forgot to mention the $12 billion value companies. This is not just numbers of companies, but these are significant companies as well. So how has this happened? Has it happened because of a result of deliberate government policy? Has it happened because the European Union has come into play and invested Cambridge with great wealth and bounty? Or has it become about because Cambridge colleges set up science and innovation parks? Or is it a complete fluke? What? We shall see. I would like to look at 4 initiatives which I think are critical from my experience of having lived through these times in Cambridge, that are critical to the success of the so-called phenomenon. First of all, the Cambridge Science Park, which has been alluded to by Patrick, which was started in 1970. Then the Barclays Bank policy, which took place between 1978 to 85. Thirdly, the St. John's Innovation Centre, which I managed from 2 years after its foundation, from 1987 through to 2008. And the Great Eastern Investment Forum, which was an angel fund initiative, which ran from about 1992 to 2002. Because I think all these lessons can be learned, which are useful in the context in which you in Poland find yourselves. First of all, the myth, which I think has actually been debunked, that a lot of what went on or has gone on in Cambridge is because of the existence of the Cambridge Science Park. The Cambridge Science Park is a significant property development, but it's a beneficiary and not a catalyst in the cluster. It is important because Trinity College, which is Cambridge's leading college, demonstrated by enabling land which it owned to be used to set up something which in 1970 was very new, a science park. So that in itself was important. Again, the fact that the Cambridge College demonstrated to its own fellows and academics associated with the university that the university was prepared at least to be involved with the grubby, mucky business of business also was very significant at that particular time. But, as I say, the science park itself provides good quality property, good quality space, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's, as Patrick said, it's an initiative which is designed to create wealth, more wealth for Trinity College, by and large, and it does that very successfully. And in context of property development for science-based businesses, it's very successful, but it is not a catalyst. When I came to Cambridge in 1975, there were about 6 high-tech, knowledge-based businesses. In 1978, Barclays Bank, the bank I was working for at the time, decided that they could see the possibilities of supporting the growth of spin-out businesses from the University of Cambridge. And they decided that they would devote resources to that and money as well. They would actually invest in these knowledge-based business spin-outs. Unfortunately, when they looked around for a person to spearhead this initiative, their first choice had been promoted to be PA to the chairman of Barclays Bank, and the only other graduate that they had was me. So I was asked to do this on the false assumption that I would be respectable, which I pointed out I'm not. I don't have a science degree, and I didn't go to Cambridge University. I went to the University of Durham. So really, I'm not acceptable. But nevertheless, and we didn't have a template. I didn't know what to do, and it was just me and the dog. And the dog came along a lot later. So, first of all, went round the University of Cambridge to see if there was positive. I didn't have a day job. This was the whole thing: promote the growth of these knowledge-based businesses, get more business for the bank in terms of customers by lending to more businesses and getting more businesses, high-tech businesses, spin-outs from the University of Cambridge into our portfolio. That's what the bank wanted. And the bank were prepared to take risks, provided that they could quantify the risks they were taking. So the first thing I did was to go around the University of Cambridge. I went round and talked to 8 professors and asked them whether this was something they supported. Are they keen on this? And without exception, they said, no, this is not the thing we want to see Cambridge University involved in. And finally, I got fed up, and I said to the last guy I spoke to, well, for heaven's sake, surely somebody spun out a business. And he said, well, they did, but it was a very sad case. And I said, what do you mean a sad case? Is he a lunatic? Is he wandering the streets of Cambridge homeless? Oh, no, he said. He never did any acceptable academic work ever again. Where is he now, I asked. Well, he's on his yacht in the Caribbean or his house in Spain. So I thought, well, that sums it up. And then I realized academics don't actually want to be business people. They may like to be involved at the periphery, but directly, they don't actually want to, in most cases, be involved in actually running a business. They're academics because they want to be academics. So that's fine. So once I understood that, I was able to get on with it and achieve my objective in other ways. But the original plan of getting spin-out businesses directly from the university had to be torn up. You had to look for spin-out businesses from other sources. And what you had round Cambridge were institutes and a highly qualified graduate population, mainly at PhD or postdoc level, are a fertile source of new innovative business, if only they could be mobilized. And Barclays' policy over the next 5 years resulted in 365 new businesses being created. Went out, gave guidance, gave money, not gave money, sorry, I'll get shot for saying that, lent money wisely. In fact, much to everybody's surprise, when an evaluation of the money invested was undertaken, it turned out that we lost less money in the high-tech businesses we invested in than in normal businesses. High-tech does not necessarily mean high risk. Anyhow, we got the number of companies up over a 7-year period from 12 to 365, and what we'd done was legitimized in an economic consultant's report by Siegel Quinn Wicksteed, and the bank decided, that's it, we've been successful, we've given this a kickstart, move on. So, moved on. And I was involved with the St. John's Innovation Centre, and St. John's, and I eventually became director or manager or CEO of the Innovation Centre in 1987, and St. John's picked up the Barclays, if you like, an approach. Our idea was basically to support early stage businesses, not just tenants and not just rent address clients. So 60 tenants, 300 eventually rent address clients, but also anybody who was interested in starting a business. And we gave them advice in terms of all sorts of business advice. And if we didn't know the answer, we found a man who did. Most of the advice you asked for was associated with business. So the fact that I was not a technologist or a scientist didn't actually matter. And if somebody asked for technical advice or introductions, you actually does a networker. So, for example, I knew nothing about fruit flies. Within the space of, I think, 3 days, I was asked for 3 introductions to somebody wanted, for whatever reason, to set up a fruit fly brothel. God knows why. Somebody was interested in sterile male fruit flies. I don't know what these bloody fruit flies are used for. And somebody else wanted something else for fruit flies. Didn't know what that was. But I knew who to ask, who to send them to, because I'd built up contacts in the university. So we actually were able to assist these businesses. That's just a typical example. Oh, they were all in Cambridge, these contacts. But we gained contacts worldwide. We did daft things. Somebody came in and wanted for an introduction to 4 Korean women. For immoral purposes, I asked. No, they wanted the Korean women because they wanted to do a presentation to Samsung, and they needed Korean women with non-regional Korean accents. And what they'd done, they'd been around Cambridge for 4 weeks, and there weren't any Korean women apparently in Cambridge. But through the contacts we built up, we found 5 Korean women for them within 2 working days. One of them turned into their bookkeeper, and they got a £75,000 contract. So what I'm saying is we provided a whole raft of business advice and guidance, mainly focused on finance and raising early stage finance. And again, I think that policy was successful. Again, St. John's College, who owned the property, regarded it as a purely commercial operation. They were interested in the return they were getting on the building as a property, which meant that the people who were running it, i.e. me and others, had to work 60-hour weeks and generate external income, often through things like the rental address system, which was nothing directly to do with the property, but also through working on consultancy and eventually other projects and programs which generated income. Sometimes we got sponsorship. Mainly not. Mainly it was external consultancy. But we had not to be a cost to the college if we wanted to achieve our objectives. And I think we were successful in that. And the college made about £1 million a year clear out of their innovation centre of 65,000 square feet, which, given you're not supposed to be able to make money out of an innovation centre, was pretty good going. So that was very important again in the late 80s, early 90s. And alongside that, following on from Barclays withdrawing from the fundraising market, there was the establishment of the Great Eastern Investment Forum, which was a forum, a network of all the people in Cambridge who had a bit of money to try and start getting money invested into the businesses at a very early stage. And that was successful until the mid-1990s, by which time really the cluster had liftoff. It had become self-sustaining. We carried on in the Innovation Centre giving advice, but we got now business angel groups, we got networks, membership organisations of the type that was referred to from the Berlin example, and the whole thing was looking after itself, and has built on itself ever since. So as I say, now we've got 1,500 companies and 45,000 jobs. So what, you may ask, did the university have to do with all this? Again, not a lot. The University of Cambridge's policy was, our policy is to have no policy. Unless, of course, things are successful, then we can take credit for it. No, to be serious, their policy was, they didn't have a policy, they have a policy of non-interference until really the establishment of Cambridge Enterprise, which is the technology transfer office, in about 1996. And again, I was involved in helping to establish that. But what at least they had was a policy of hands-off. They'd let you get on with it. They'd let people get on with it, provided it didn't interfere with their teaching and it didn't interfere with their research. And that's really good. And again, I'm sure you don't find this in the rest of Europe, but English academics are a bloody nuisance. They are a different breed from business people. They think they know it all. They think because they're good academics, they know how to run businesses. I know I'm not an academic, so why don't they know they can't run businesses? And you get stupid decisions taken. Still, in 2015, another university I worked for in the east of England declined to promote somebody who was absolutely outstanding in the area of enterprise development in an academic context because he hadn't got a bloody PhD. Sodding ridiculous. Absolutely stupid. Other universities are very negative. Another university I worked for received £26 million worth of UK government money to set up a science park. So what do? They actually discourage academics from getting involved with setting up businesses. And one guy I spoke to, I said, because he denied he got a business. And I said, well, I've told you got a business. He said, how do you find that out? And I said, well, I've got a friend in Canada who tells me he got a business in Canada. Oh, he said, well, I've been told I'd be sacked if they knew that people in whatever it was, if in his department knew that I got a business, so I had to set it up in North America. This is madness. So even in the UK, you have universities of quality who aren't actually, they're getting in the way. And that is a real barrier to development. Cambridge University has, as Patrick demonstrated, moved on. It has become more sophisticated, more supportive, and that's really good. But the university, at a crucial stage, did nothing. Government and European Union. Again, they didn't do anything. It's too simplistic because, of course, they did something. They provided infrastructure. But the infrastructure they provided was in the form of roads and electrification. The M11 electrification of the rail to London, in Cambridge's case, very important. But actually direct involvement in businesses didn't happen until the Blair government in 1997, by which time we'd had liftoff. What about the European Commission? Well, again, I was horrified in 2008 when I was doing some research because I was getting involved in a European program to discover, according to the European Commission Union, there isn't a cluster in Cambridge. There's a very important software cluster in Malta and in northern Cyprus, but there isn't in Cambridge. That doesn't strike me as terribly right, but never mind. But the point I'm making is, yes, European support is very important, government support is very important, but in the terms of the Cambridge cluster, This was not driven from above. This was a bottom-up initiative supported by individual people taking risks. And key people, bursars of Cambridge colleges, the bursar of St. John's College, the senior director of Barclays Bank, again, took a risk. Today, he'd be shot if he did that. He went out and said, my family have been involved in this bank for 50 years, or it was 150 years, so we're going to take a risk. And as long as I know what risks we're taking, then I think that's my job to do it, because I believe in regional development, and I believe in what the bank should be doing to support early-stage businesses. So key people did take risks. So what I'm coming to the conclusion of is that the Cambridge cluster, the Cambridge phenomenon, is not a top-down initiative. It's very much a bottom-up initiative driven by individuals. And those individuals are key. And if you are going to have a successful cluster, yes, get government money, yes, get EU support, yes, get the universities on board, but you don't have to do it. There is no substitute for getting your own plan. It'll have to be a flexible plan because all plans change, but doing it yourself, getting key people in positions, getting them to do stuff, and getting them to act in a positive and constructive way, exercising that rare English, exercising common sense. Let's say no more than that. So, in conclusion, when I woke up this morning, I saw in my hotel a sign on a wall, and I thought, gosh, what are signs on walls doing? And this sign said, all things are difficult before they are easy. All things are difficult before they are easy. And I thought, yes, that actually sums up the Cambridge phenomenon. It's very difficult. Technology transfer, setting up the type of innovative cluster you want to set up, it's very difficult. But there's no substitute for getting off your bottom and going and trying to do it and exercising positive leadership. Don't wait for leadership from institutions. Do it yourselves. Thank you.
Przywilejem najlepszych, przywilejem wizjonerów jest nietrzymanie się czasu. Stąd z uśmiechem rzecz jasna kłaniamy się w kierunku Pana.